Hello everyone, I'm Bill Miller from Windermere Preparatory School in Windermere, Florida. But I'm welcoming you today to the beautiful country of Costa Rica. So how does it happen that we're here this week? Well, a few years ago I happened to see an interview on television with Juan Sostheim, the owner and founder of Rancho Margot. And I was really impressed with his views on sustainable living and farming. I was also impressed with the intention that he put on every decision regarding operating the ranch and working with his staff. So I decided it was time to come down and see this place for myself. Although I was here for 2 weeks, it was actually on day 1 when Aurelio, my tour guide, explained to me the symbiotic relationship between all the organisms in the ranch and including humans. That's when I knew that we had to bring our students here. We were lucky because along the way, we got to stop and visit our sister school, Country Day School, located in San Jose, the capital city. While we were there, we got to learn from staff and students about their sustainability initiatives, whether it was the solar panels on the roof or the open air classrooms. We also got to learn about the Honeybee Project, which was funded by a Nord Anglia education grant. So we got to learn quite a bit from our friends at Country Day School. But now here we are at the ranch, and we come here with open hearts, open minds, ready to listen and to learn as we go ahead and prepare to create our future. And as they say here in Costa Rica, pura vida.
This is Country Day School, located west of San Jose and San Rafael de Alajuela, Costa Rica. Country Day School is a state-of-the-art sustainable campus with 750 students from early childhood through high school, featuring open-air courtyards and classrooms. Students are able to collaborate and work together while having many opportunities to take part in fine arts, performing arts in their theater, and sports with their covered outdoor basketball court, pool, and turf field. So come with us and learn from the staff and the students of Country Day School about their initiatives to keep not only their campus and their surrounding communities clean, but how they can have a part in helping all of Costa Rica.
These are one of our biggest initiatives at school. This is called the Bag That Builds. It's called the Bag That Builds because with all the plastic, they're basically making buildings out of it, infrastructure. Yeah. And we collaborated and we partnered with this company called CRDC. And basically what they do, they develop this new technology. Basically, like they turn any plastic back into like this like churro sort of thing, like a churro sort of plastic, and then they break that all down.
And that's something good, you know, because like you got all the different kinds of plastic, PET, PT, polyvinyl chlorates, and all that kind of stuff. And so this project brings all of those kinds of plastics, and so they're all compatible and they can all be made into something that's useful, and separation really isn't an issue.
And it's so innovative because they found such a simple solution for plastic and to just put it into another industry where it is needed. And the effect that this has on the concrete itself is very beneficial. They told us it helps with like thermal management, like heat management. It saves a lot of energy for many buildings. And it's also like more acoustic as well. So there's benefits that comes with using this plastic as additive.
So what's so great about this initiative is that working with CRDC, they have something called the REAP program, which is an education program which teaches children really how to become sustainable at a young age. So that's what we've been really trying to do, is get that started at our school. And the process itself really helps with carbon emissions, so I think that's what makes everything so great about it. Like the whole project is sustainable, from recycling the plastic to the manufacturing of Resonate. So it's a really great project to get, like, especially the children, they're really excited to work on it, and they bring a bunch of plastic and then we take it to the facility and work with it.
Yeah, it was actually like really inspiring seeing, like the first day where we introduced the project, like each little kid took their bag and they were going all around the school asking everybody for plastic. They were super excited. And they're honestly like the people that are most like into the project. Yeah. We've already sent out 2 shipments to CRDC. We've collected about around half a ton, and we're expecting our 3rd shipment about next week.
Yeah, and the plastic we collect throughout the school as well is also being taken to the facility, not only from the kids, but the school. And over the break, we also sent another shipment. Yeah. But the bulk of our collection really comes from home. So the kids bring bags from their houses every day. And last year we had an issue where there were just too many bags and we didn't know where to put them. But this year we've gotten that under control. But yeah, the bulk of our production comes from homes.
I am a biologist, conservationist, I'm a specialist in reptiles. And I wanted to do something like we do all the time. We're living in this living laboratory, in this diverse laboratory, that we really want to do something. So let's figure out and discover what are the problems, what do we have around, and then we start exploring more about wildlife gardens and what do we need to have a wildlife garden, what's a wildlife habitat, habitat that provides water, shelter, places to raise young, to reproduce, to find food for all those organisms. And so what can we still do to help pollinators and to improve our wildlife habitat? Let's talk, we were exploring more, let's talk about and think about how can we do the hotels for pollinators. So that's why we decided to invite an expert who can help us, and the beekeeper, Luis Zamora, he came here and said, okay, we can do this, we can do that, and he helped us to make our first wildlife pollinators hotel. North Anglia has this office that it has the social impact office or something, and the Share a Dream. So we sent our project. So we were working on the project, we were like filling out all the forms and showing what we would like to do, how we would like to do, and sell our idea to North Anglia, and they were super happy with the idea and they gave us the grant.
This is what we call the bee hotel. Usually when you want to establish a bee colony, you import it from somewhere else. You get the queen bee and a few other bees, and you set it up in any location, and those bees will eventually reproduce and start a colony of their own. Standard beehives are already kind of set up in the first place. They have like the place where all the bees are kept and where the bees are grown. Here, we kind of give the opportunity for the bees to choose the place they like best, and that'll attract them more. Because if you kind of try to force a bee into a specific location, it might not even go there at all, especially when we're trying to attract them here and not necessarily have them make a hive here in the first place.
And all the grades really love this. Like the children come here all the time to visit it. The bees are really harmless.
As you can see, bees aren't the only things that we have here. We also have a hummingbird feeder and several bird houses set up. So, sometimes we get small birds, they're called euphonias, and different kinds of hummingbirds to come here. You can open the hive and manipulate it. Bees will follow the pheromones where they sense like the different parts of the hive are. There's several different parts. There's a part where they store the honey, if there's any honey at all. There's a part where they keep their young, and then there's a part where they put their waste. All of these different parts of the hive can be put to different uses. The top obviously is where we get the honey. If the honey stays there for long enough, it'll eventually turn it into what the bees use as a waste product, because it's what they use to feed themselves. And so that turns into a sort of wax you can even use to make candles and other different kinds of things out of.
After our visit to Country Day School, we loaded onto our bus and set off on our 3-hour drive to Rancho Margot. Over the next 4 days, we learned how they operate completely off-grid and are self-sustainable. During our tour, we got up close and personal with all the ranch has to offer, from its hydroelectric power generation, animals, farming, composting, and resort-style living. We were even given the opportunity to offer our helping hands with a few farm chores. Some jobs are easier, others are a little more difficult. We got to help collect eggs, clean a chicken coop, wrangle some starving pigs, and have a little fun throwing some garden scraps to the fish in the pond. The ranch also offers yoga, horseback riding, kayaking, and various other tours both day and night. Let's sit down with Juan Sostine, owner and founder of Rancho Margot, to hear how he challenges us to take the next steps to creating a better future.
My main motivation in Europe, my last 8 years there, I worked in the chemical industry, in water and agriculture. And I just saw enormous problems all over the place. And as a result, when I came here, those problems were in my mind, and I said, you know, I want to see what I can do to make it better. The fundamental process here is circular. It doesn't matter what we do, we try to create a circular economy. Whether it's in management, in production, in the tourism, we try to think, okay, how do we make that a circular economy? By that I mean we reduce waste, we eliminate unnecessary processes, but we do everything that has to be done in order to make it right, in order to make it a successful, efficient, productive process that is not going to have side effects that we don't know about and we can't measure. And the idea was that if I could make this work like I wanted, I could get people to start things like this, not another Rancho Margot. I wasn't interested in franchising, anything like that, but I was interested in people creating a regenerative community and being able to improve their own lives, because that's what it's all about. So we need to look at solutions, and we need to look at cause and effect and see how we can incentivize what we want to have and reward what we have, what we need. And if we can do that with this new technology, I think we're going to make leaps and bounds of progress. But we have to experiment. We have to see. I don't think that we need to be inventing new things. There's plenty of people that are out there inventing new things. I just think we need to point out to people that are doing things that there's a better way of doing it.
But how do we take like this sustainability, like where do we start? Like if we were to take this back to the States, how can we implement this level of sustainability into our school or anywhere?
Well, I mean, it starts with yourselves, and it sort of gets contagious because you are conscientiously trying to improve things a little bit every day if you can. Learn yourself what you are actually doing. You look at yourself, you analyze yourself, and if you're going to go into a community, you start by analyzing what is the community actually doing. What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? And where do we begin to improve? Well, obviously, you want to do more of the things that you're doing right and try to slowly but surely get away from the things that you're doing wrong.
So guys, we saw a lot of different things here in Costa Rica, here at Rancho Margot, and thinking about the ecosystem and biodiversity. So first of all, let's define a couple things. What is an ecosystem?
So an ecosystem comprises of both abiotic and biotic factors. So an example of abiotic is pretty much non-living things like rocks, water, climate, etc. And then biotic is talking about the living organisms that are in the environment itself. So for instance, how abiotic and biotic creatures live together and how everything works. So for instance, how can algae reside on a rock or in a pond? How can birds make a home out of nests, etc.
So in the context of what we've seen in the last couple days, what would you define biodiversity as?
So biodiversity is kind of the plethora of different organisms that live in a certain area, and diversity is the difference. So, and the range, so like there's a wide range from tiniest ants to the coatis that you see in the wilderness. And so that's biodiversity is basically like the wide range of different species and organisms that live in an area.
So we saw a lot of the different organisms, and I want you to think of one of those organisms that we saw and a potential role that they might have in the environment here. So think about what we saw, whether it was on the day walk or night walk, or even just walking around, animal or plant, microorganism. Think about how they might play that role.
Okay, so something that has stood out to me that I really liked was the lobster claw plant. And I think that stood out to me because you can see how it plays a big role. Not only is it very beautiful and photosynthesizes like other plants, but the way that the lobster claw shape is it collects rainwater, which it rains a lot, as you can see it's raining now. So it collects water in the little claws for other organisms to come drink the water or live in it, and it creates like a moist environment within the plant. So it's a plant itself, but also a home to other organisms.
So for me, there was two pieces of like biolife in the forest that kind of stood out to me. One was the plants. I think it's like that one over there, which it was like a red flower that had seeds inside of it. And when it got too heavy, it fell down. And then those seeds would make another batch of plants that grew together. And I thought that was pretty interesting. And then the second was the leafcutter ants, which you could see walking down the paths, walking across the stones. And it was pretty interesting to see how they were able to adapt to be able to cut the leaves and bring it back to their houses to feed their kids.
So on the day walk, we saw under the leaves of plants white fungi, and those white fungi, they take those dead leaves, they decompose them, turn that back energy and bringing it back into the environment.
All of this plays a role in what we do here, and we have to find that balance between that. Now, what do you guys think we could do to start off little? I think one of the things we learned from Mr. Juan, the owner of this, of the ranch, taught us that little things can make big impacts. So what do you guys think that we could do to start making a bigger impact, or at least starting at a smaller impact to make a bigger impact that we can do at our school and our community?
If we introduce more native plants in Florida to our school, it'll help bring in more pollinators, which will help boost all the plants around, and you could grow more food and more things. And if we help on the microscopic level with fungi, those can help decompose more things. We could have more compost. Overall, the soil and everything there will be much better. We won't have to rely on fertilizer so much.
Kind of going off of what Azat said, I think doing that would be awesome, but I think the first step before that is educating, which is, one of the main roles that we'll play. So I think just going back to our school, telling people what we did here, what the importance is, I think it will help get more people involved, because even before this trip, I knew my goals of what I wanted and what to implement to the school, what would be awesome, but coming here has just taken that to a whole new level. Oh, yeah. So I think education first, and this is something Juan said, and at the Country Day School, how education is #1, and then that will create a basis to do the other things around our school as well.
So I know you were saying that we have recyclable bins in all of the classrooms. I know at Country Day they started with the bins where everyone was contributing and throwing all their recyclables in there, and then it goes. I think if we start with something as little as that and then grow like Country Day did, I think that would probably be the best course of action. And like Sydney was saying, we educate. So that starts with education, all the students on campus.
The environment has been doing this since the beginning of time, right? We are just saying, oh, we have not been doing this. We have to find a way to get back to doing this. So yes, educating ourselves and understanding why we need to do this, and then 2, implementing that. So we need to start little. Maybe it is a little thing is doing a garden, actually recycling our plastic bottles and such. And then maybe we can go on to the next steps, and maybe we can make our community as sustainable as Country Day School, as the ranch here, and then take that to the rest of the community. But we have to start somewhere. And so we're gonna start with you guys and really trying to get everyone in that mindset. And we're gonna do this, yes.
All right, guys, so this is, I think, for me, one of the most exciting parts of our trip, right, is because we've seen so many amazing things that show us how sustainability can be in a setting like this. And what we're going to take a look at today is actually examining a way that we can mimic a part of this in our own campus. When we look at harmful algal bloom, it's something that just doesn't happen in the state of Florida, it happens worldwide, right? So this isn't just a local problem, this is a global problem. And so our students had come up with an idea of how to remediate the problem by creating a substrate. So whenever we take a look at these, we call these substrates, okay? So each substrate is made up of a terracotta plate that Mr. Miller was so kind enough to let us create right in the art room. And the unique thing is what about these 3 clay plates? They're different textures, right? And so we had done a study actually with 9 different textures, and we did a study to figure out exactly which texture would grow algae the best. And when we talk about algae, we're talking about a good type of algae. And what I mean by that is harmful algal bloom loves to eat phosphates and nitrates out of the water, okay? And phosphates and nitrates come from what? What can you think about would end up putting phosphates and nitrates into the water? Fertilizers, right? And what do you know about Florida and fertilizers? They're everywhere, right? And that's because Florida is one of the states that has the highest rate of urbanization. Tons of buildings are going up, and with buildings also comes lawns that we have to take care of and golf courses and things like that. So with the phosphates and nitrates from these places, they end up in runoff and they end up in the ponds and rivers and streams. And algae, harmful algae actually loves that. That's the food for them, okay? So if you think about it, there's two types of algae I want you to think about. The harmful algae that we don't like, that can actually be really harmful to not only the organisms in the area, but can be harmful to humans as well. But then there's also this good algae, and the good algae is what we want to grow, and it's actually called cyanobacteria, okay? It's the blue-green algae. And what they do is they actually compete for the food, the phosphates and nitrates that the harmful algal bloom wants, but they're stronger, right? So they can actually take that food in quicker than the harmful algal bloom. And so what we're trying to do is essentially grow an algae on these plates that can actually get to the food source first and acquire it, right, before the harmful algal bloom does. And by doing that, the harmful algal bloom can recede. So you can understand then the project is really to figure out which texture would be the most efficient at allowing the algae to attach to the substrate and grow and flourish, okay? So obviously there's no algae on these now, so what we're going to be doing today is we are going to be choosing a body of water to place them in. And you have to think about placement of them in the water. So we want to have it in a region of the water called the photic zone, where light penetrates and provides all the nutrients these organisms need to grow. Actually, in our pond at school, we dump chemicals in that pond so that it doesn't provide a lot of algae growth, right? So we want to come up with a way that we can limit the chemicals and do something that's biological.
After our lessons with Dr. Wright and Ms. Holloran, we head down to a local body of water on the ranch to begin the process of water testing. The first thing we need to do is collect a few water samples from different locations. With these samples, we will check the turbidity of the water to see its cloudiness and then prepare them to send off for testing. They will be analyzed to examine all the microorganisms in the water, as well as the phosphates and nitrates, which can help us identify the species. After the samples have been tested, labeled, and packed away, the design process for placing the plates will begin.
Yeah.
It could look like they can save more stuff in these.
Right now what we're trying to do is create a design in order to put these three textures into the body of water that is the rapid rate of water. And we've decided that we're going to put all three plates together. That way we can put them off to the side in a specific area in which it can move around, but not too much so it doesn't float away. But there isn't another area like that in the body of water. So we're connecting them. That way we can keep them all together.
Have the test that'll be on the stiller water, and over there's rapid water. So we're securing it under this dock to two different posts. You can see he's in the water. This is Jackson, our tour guide, helping us. And I'm up here handing him wires, so we're attaching it. Here's our original blanket of plates. We have these two, and then we're gonna tie it together to make it longer and attaching it to two posts down there. And here it gets enough sunlight, but it's not always direct. It's also not always in the shade. So yeah, this is our still water test, and then we will be monitoring it, hopefully being in communication with the ranch still, sending pictures, and then eventually, hopefully, coming back to see what the results are. And then we're gonna compare it to the rapid water and to our water at school. And before this, we took some water tests to see in what kind of environment these plates would be living in. So we'll be able to see the algae growth and how it can benefit bodies of water.
Now that we're back at Windermere Preparatory School, we are ready to take on some of the challenges we discussed at Country Day School and Rancho Murgon. A group of us has begun work on a pollinator's garden here on our campus. We've also been creating artwork to address the topic of recycling, and we've been addressing the regenerative community habits with our families and administrators. We'll have another group of students heading back to Costa Rica in just a few short months to check on our test plates and to learn much more about the UN goals of sustainable development. So, you'll be hearing from our expeditions team again very soon, and until then, we wish everyone great success in creating your future.
Hey Hey guys, this is fresh harvested honey from the Country Day School that we just tried. It's absolutely amazing.
It reminds me of lemongrass with the citrusy flavor.
It's so good.
Very well lit bathroom. It's very nice. All natural wood finish. WPS.
It's nice. It's stylish.
I like it. I saw you call it. It's like.
And then we'll do
If you had to rate all of your cameramanning experiences, what would you say would be the best?
This one right here, of course.